I'm Donna, an OpenSciEd teacher. Today we'll be going over B.2 Lesson 5. This is a fun hands-on lab that supports what students figure out about sunlight and photosynthesis from Lesson 4. In this video, we're going to look at how we got here, lesson at a glance, key moments, and material management tips and tricks. So let's dive in. All right, how we got here. So during lesson 4, we figured out that the tilt of the Earth thousands of years ago was different, that this increased the solar radiation in the Arctic, which increased the potential for plants to capture and store carbon. In this lesson, we're wondering, could changes in the Earth's tilt cause more energy and matter to be stored in plants? All right, lesson at a glance. So this is an investigation, should take 3 days, 30 minutes of material preparation. Most of that is preparing for the investigation. It is a hands-on investigation, no required devices, and no additional related videos. All right, there are 3 sense-making loops in this lesson, and let's see those in more detail. All right, sense-making loop 1, we're going to open with discussing the exit ticket responses from the previous lesson. Then we're going to introduce the directional hypothesis. They'll plan the investigation individually, then we'll come together as a whole class to plan the investigation, and then we'll map that investigation to the zombie fire system. Students are going to figure out that through photosynthesis, plants convert carbon dioxide into sugar and water, and the rate of photosynthesis will increase as solar radiation increases. And we wonder if the lab will support the hypothesis that we developed. In sense-making loop 2, it's all about the investigation. We're going to carry out the investigation. We're going to set it up. We're going to make predictions about the different vials of plants. Then we're going to collect our data, clean up from the lab, make sense of the investigation data, and have a building understanding discussion. We're going to figure out that when the energy from the lamp was direct, more carbon dioxide was captured by the plants during photosynthesis and converted into sugars. And we wonder, what do plants do with the sugar that they made from photosynthesis? All right, sense-making loop 3. We're going to investigate starch, we're going to construct an explanation, and then we're going to update our progress trackers. We're going to figure out that plants convert that excess sugar into large carbon-based molecules, for example, starch. This helps to explain the accumulation of carbon in the Arctic. All right, what we're figuring out through this entire lesson, that increased solar radiation in the Arctic has increased the potential for plants to capture and store carbon-based molecules, also called photosynthesis, and that the plants converted this excess sugar that they made from photosynthesis into those large carbon-based molecules. But then, as the tilt of the Earth changed, as solar radiation in the Arctic decreased, plants died, forming peat and permafrost. All right, let's see those key moments. All right, after going over the exit ticket responses, part 1, we get to introducing the directional hypothesis. And this is where I like to explain to the students that this is how we explain the relationship between 2 variables. Quite frequently, I'll use the example of a seesaw for like negative or inverse relationships. And the 2 variables that we're really focused on here is sunlight and carbon stored. Students are going to develop their own directional hypothesis. So if sunlight increases, what's going to happen to the amount of carbon stored? And we're thinking about how can we investigate this? So we create our hypothesis, and now we're thinking about the investigation. And it's good to bring up the 2 investigations that were completed previously, burning peat and then the decomposition from yeast. All right, part 4, after planning the investigation individually, we are planning it together as a class. And we're going to come to an agreement on the class investigation plan. So what variables can we manipulate? Can we change the amount of carbon stored directly? No, but we can change it indirectly. And then we get to the idea of, all right, we've got a light source. What can we do to manipulate light in some way to try to represent how sunlight has changed, how much of it is getting to the Arctic? And then what data will we collect? How do we know the plants are conducting photosynthesis? What can we measure? And I always like to remind them of like, all right, remember we used BTB as an indicator previously. How did we use that? What did we see? Could we use that in this investigation as well? And then what results would we expect to see to support our hypothesis? Would we expect to see the BTB more yellow, more blue, and what's going to support that hypothesis? All right, part 7. This seems like a quick part, but pretty fundamental for my students. And this is where we're going to map the investigation to the zombie fires. We're going to create a mapping table. So what does each part of our investigation represent? What do the plants represent? Pretty quickly, the students will say peat. And then what about the direct light, the indirect light? The BTB, that one can be a tricky one because then the students are like, well, there wasn't any BTB in the Arctic. So sometimes I'll give some like leading questions to help them along the way. All right, after completing the lab, collecting our data, now we're at part 13, make sense of the investigation data. So what happened in each of the tubes? Direct light was darker blue, indirect light was kind of like a greenish teal color, and then the cover stayed yellow. So why are we seeing this difference? What is the BTB? What is this investigation telling us? What happened to the light energy? And then this really gets to the students figuring out that this allows the plant to take in carbon dioxide and turn it into sugar and oxygen. Without the sunlight, that process isn't happening. And then we're going to add chemical energy to our personal glossary. Part 14, we're going to have our building understanding discussion after the investigation. So what are we concluding from this? When there is more light, more matter and energy were transferred from the light and carbon dioxide to sugar and oxygen. More direct sunlight, more light energy, more CO2 was leaving the water and going into the plant. And this connects really well to what we learned previously about the tilt of the earth in the past versus present and how much plants are there right now. And really it comes down to more sunlight, more plant growth. And so how did you arrive at the conclusion? This is something that I like to ask my students a lot of. How did we get to this conclusion with this investigation? And what's the evidence that we've brought with us? All right, part 15. This is a pretty fun part of the lesson where we're going to investigate starch. So now we know the plants are completing more photosynthesis, taking more CO2 when there's more direct sunlight, but what are they doing with that sugar that's created? Are they just burning it and using it, or is it getting stored? And that's where starch comes in. So you can do this as a demo, an iodine test for starch with the leaves of the aquatic plants. Sometimes I like to add in like a potato, be like, hey, we know this one has a ton of starch, and then kind of use that as a comparison. And then we're thinking about how does this support our explanation that we've created or that we figured out. All right, part 16. Now we're going to construct that explanation. We're going to link our evidence to our claims that direct light plants took more carbon dioxide from the water during photosynthesis than the indirect lights from our investigation. And what changes would result in peat containing many large carbon molecules. So more photosynthesis was happening, and then that excess sugar was getting stored as starch. And where is the matter moving to and from? From the system that we investigated and then also the zombie fires. All right, where do we go from here? We carried out an investigation to determine how differences in solar radiation impact carbon captured and storage. We are wondering if we have enough information to try and explain how zombie fires can burn under ice and release so much carbon. So really thinking about how do we put this all together, what we figured out. All right, material management tips and tricks. I've got a couple of them for you for the 2 investigations. All right, the aquatic plant investigation. I've found that you don't need a lodia specifically. Any small-leaved aquatic plants will work. I routinely will just go to my local pet store and I will get all the small plants that they have, and it's always worked out really well for me, saved me some time, and significantly less costly. If plants are limited, I will also assign each group one of the variables. I'm like, all right, your group, you're going to do the direct light. This group, you're going to do the indirect light. Another group, you're going to do the cover. And I add soda water to add carbon dioxide, makes the BTB turn really yellow, gives us more of that color change that we're looking for. And I found that it makes the experiment more effective. And my students like to also collect data of like qualitative data. What are we seeing for signs of photosynthesis? And we talk about the bubbles that you'll see on leaves. They really like the bubbles. All right, testing for the starch. I actually like to do this one not as a demo, but as a hands-on investigation for the students. I will give each student a potato to test with iodine, and then I'll give them a leaf of the Alodia from the covered, indirect, and then the direct sunlight. We'll use that to compare to. And it's really engaging for my students to come up with other foods and plants that also might contain a lot of starch. All right, personal glossary management. We're going to co-construct chemical energy, and we're going to encounter directional hypothesis. And for poster management, it's really making sure that those community agreements are easily accessible. Really great to have on hand when you're preparing for the investigation. All right, there's the end of the video. Thank you so much for being here, watching the video. I hope your students have as much fun with this lab as my students did. Two key takeaways for you is that any small-leaved aquatic plant has worked for me, and this gives evidence that the students can see that really helps lead really nicely into lesson 6. Thanks so much, and you got this.